April 21st, Monday Night Raw is in the books. This is 3 Count Commentaries. I am MagMongoSlade. We're going to talk about the Raw after WrestleMania and some of the events that happened therein. A lot of rushed angles here. Some angles that went nowhere. Angles that served no purpose. Wasted money. Wasted opportunities. And proven that Triple H fundamentally still does not understand what it means to write stories. I'll say again, professional wrestling is a drama. It is sequential storytelling. Week to week, you build upon each other. You plant a seed, you water the seed, you watch it grow, you reap the rewards. It's simple. You build some anticipation, okay? Building anticipation is one of the most important things you can do when it comes to stories. Now, if you decide that you don't want to build anticipation, instead you want to give something a jolt in the arm, that's perfectly fine, and do that what they call hot shotting. You could do that almost, whenever you want, but do it in an appropriate time, in an appropriate place, where everybody can be on board at the same time. We'll talk about it when we get there. Let's start with the closing angle. Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins. Ugh, I got so used to saying Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns. Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins are in the ring. Paul Heyman announces that Seth Rollins is the #1 undisputed top star in the company after he defeated CM Punk and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. At this point in time, CM Punk came out. Him and Rollins fight. Rollins literally got the shit stomped out of him. And then before Paul could get attacked, Rollins recovered, fought Punk off, stomped him in the head. He beat him up a little bit more. And then Roman came out. Roman beat up Rollins even more. Superman punched Paul Heyman and was going to spear him when Bron Breakker cut him off, speared Roman, and then speared Roman through the barricade. And between the two of them, they had beat up both Punk and Roman. So the big surprise is that Rollins and Heyman were not alone. They have recruited young Bron Breakker, to their fold. And let me tell you, absolutely fantastic idea. This is exactly what you want to do with Bron Breakker. Exactly. He's mixing it up with top guys. He's under Seth Rollins. He's kind of a Seth Rollins goon, but that's fine. It's fine for him to be in that position right now because he's mixing it up with top guys. He dropped the Intercontinental Championship without getting beat. Didn't even look back for it. Injected Bron Breakker into the story as the muscle for Seth Rollins, which is what I said, that he's going to need some muscle. I think he's going to need at least one more guy. And we'll see who that turns out to be. But all in all, I think the angle was okay. It was mostly Rollins coming out there to soak up the booze and to brag about taking the wise man and the best friend of CM Punk and Roman Reigns, respectively. So it wasn't much to it, outside of setting up a scenario in which Rollins is overwhelmed and needed help, but they had already planned for that because Paul and Seth are the brains of the operation. They've already thought this thing through. Okie dokie. So, are we setting up a tag team match? Perhaps a Roman and Punk tag team? It could be interesting. The Bron Breakker, Seth Rollins tag team could be interesting too. But I think they're going to add another guy to the team and probably spare Seth the match. So I'm interested in seeing where it's going to go forward. The problem here is that neither Roman or Punk are full-time. So who knows if either one of them are going to show up next week. So there's no way. I'm pretty sure Roman's not. Roman ain't showing up multiple times, in the month. So this was probably his last date for the month. So we'll see. how they managed to build this. But a tag team match could be very solid in order to, really build this. But you don't really need it on Backlash. I mean, it would be nice for it to be there, but you don't really need it at Backlash, considering you're going to have John Cena wrestling at Backlash. But hey, the more the merrier when it comes to the cards. Now, I want to mention this. Paul Heyman was on ESPN, and he absolutely lost his mind. He was talking about the Shannon Sharp scenario. He made a deportation joke. A lot of people have been very on edge about Paul Heyman on ESPN. I'm not going to go through the entirety of what he said, but he was talking about Pat McAfee basically telling ESPN to fuck off, and that Pat McAfee does whatever he wants. He swings his dick around. I think that was his actual words. And he says that he can't do nothing to ESPN that Shannon Sharp hasn't already done, or something like that. And Shannon Sharp, for those of you who don't know, because I didn't know when I saw the clip initially, he was accused of rape by a supposed 19 or 20-year-old girl who said she was having sex with him. And he posted a bunch of text messages between the two of them, I guess, to try to prove that it was consensual. But she's suing for $50 million. It was saying that his podcast contract had just expired, and he was looking to get $100 million for his next deal. And surprise, surprise, he was talking about getting a huge payday, and some girl he porked not too long ago turned up and says, "Hey, I want some money." And initially she was a Jane Doe, but then her name was brought out. Shannon Sharp is in his 50s or in his late 40s, one of the two. And they say the girl was, again, 19, 20. She was legal age, but, I think he was like twice her age, or maybe something like that. Very bizarre. I mean, ESPN didn't need that. I mean, ESPN and Fox both getting hit with sex scandals in the same year. Sheesh. But the guy who filed the lawsuit against Shannon Sharp is the same guy who had filed the lawsuit against Jay-Z. The same guy who's filing all those lawsuits against Diddy. So the likelihood that these things have any real legs to them is shaky at best. But as usual, you get accused of rape, it's over with. It's over for you. And if you thought Shannon Sharp was going to get $100 million, it's not likely to happen now that he's been accused of rape. So forget it. Let's get back into the show, though, because you guys came to talk about wrestling, not about Shannon Sharp. Even though I don't know that much about Shannon Sharp's business anyway. That's all I know. Dominic Mysterio defeated Penta because Dominic Mysterio needed to win a match because he had not won a match before winning the title. He was aided by JD McDonough, who came out of nowhere. He's returned, and he helped Dominic Mysterio win. Finn Balor, I thought, was going to sabotage Dominic. He didn't. It literally didn't mean anything. Penta, I get it. You want to give Dominic a substantial win. I'm not sure if Penta's the right guy to. I don't know. I'm thinking about this thing, and yes, you want to establish Dominic, but Penta should have been more of a threat, and having him lose essentially 2 nights in a row is kind of goofy, to me. It's almost like his push has hit the curb, So maybe it should have been someone else that Dominic wrestled. I mean, sure, there's got to be somebody else on the roster Dominic could have defended the title against. I'm 100% in on Dominic winning, even if it has to be this match. But I'm against him pinning Penta because I think that there's some money they could have made feuding against each other. But Triple H doesn't care about that. He's not thinking about that kind of stuff. It's weird how sometimes it seems like all TKO cares about is money. But then there's some money situations where they just kind of like, I don't care. It's not worth building anticipation over it. It's not worth putting any storyline elements into it. So fuck it. It is what it is. And this seemed like to be one of those situations. Yes, they've had matches before, but it just feels like this one was kind of rushed. It felt like, but that's just me. Okay, so they did an angle. The only good angle that I really loved on the show before Bron Breakker showed up. Gunther was offended at how Michael Cole and Pat McAfee was calling his match. He was upset that Pat McAfee and Michael Cole are always yeeting and dancing, and he thinks that this is not their job. It's not their job to be cheerleaders, which is technically correct. Michael Cole thinks, oh, we can have an opinion. We're announcers. We're entertainers. We're having fun and caught up in the emotion. Things happen. Don't take it personally. So Gunther starts to shove Michael Cole, push him around. And Pat McAfee tries to get in there. He shoves McAfee out of the way. Then he grabs Michael Cole and he starts choking Michael Cole. Good angle here. At this point, Pat McAfee attacks Gunther to free Michael Cole. And he ends up getting choked out. And this was amazing. This was really good. So a bunch of officials and agents and stuff come out there and pull Gunther off of Pat McAfee. So then after this, they have to replace Pat McAfee with Joe Tessitore. And Michael Cole is, talking about being an announcer. And he says the words, LeBron James is not attacked by Stephen A. Smith. And I was like, buddy, I got news for you. Guess I got news for you. But this was a good angle because Pat McAfee sucks and he's very annoying. He's super annoying. Just extremely annoying. But they're doing the whole Gunther is a loose cannon thing now, which is fine. It's just a way of getting his heat back. He got to get his heat back from being humiliated, submitting in front of the world. And people chanting, you tapped out, which of course is the point, is to get some kind of fan reaction from them. So while I'm not thrilled that Gunther essentially took the loss laying down without trying to get a rematch or anything like that, I like this angle. I thought it was very good. Very well done. Next, AJ Styles said he will bounce back from losing to Logan Paul. And then Karrion Kross, who had one hell of a night on WrestleMania Sunday, said that AJ Styles legitimized Logan Paul by losing. And AJ Styles says that beating Logan Paul like that would have meant nothing. And if he got a problem with Logan Paul, he should handle it himself. To which Karrion Kross said that he will. Now, everybody knows Karrion Kross cut an absolutely fantastic promo. I don't know what the vehicle of that was. Like, there's so many social media shows and interviews and stuff. It's impossible to keep up. But this promo was about maybe 3 or 4 minutes of Karrion Kross explaining how he felt overlooked all this time and how he got advice from Bill Goldberg to be a good soldier, but being a good soldier got him fired. And Triple H is overlooking people who have real passion for the business, for viral moments. And the company has to know how the people feel about him when they heard it on SmackDown. He said he didn't ask to fight Randy Orton. He never asked. But he expected it because he thought that the crowd had made enough noise when he was eliminated out of the Battle Royal to get their attention. And then he says to the suits and ties backstage, go fuck yourself. And everybody was like, holy shit. And I was like, yeah, buddy, this is the Karrion Kross that I've been talking about. I'm a big Karrion Kross guy. Big Karrion Kross guy at NXT. Was very disappointed that Triple H has been misusing him. Was extremely disappointed in how Vince used him, because I thought he would have been right up Vince's alley, being a big dude who was jacked. I thought that he would have been right up Vince's alley. But I don't know. It just sucks. But he's been on the roster for so long, and he's been rotting on this roster. He has spent at least 2 or 3 years basically just being an instigator, popping up, involved with other people's feuds, helping other people turn heel and all this kind of stuff. But he hasn't been doing anything for himself. When he was wrestling matches on SmackDown, he was getting no reaction whatsoever. Nobody cared about what he was doing. And so that kind of gave them an excuse to take him out of the ring. But now his fan reactions have changed. People actually care. And I don't even know what show he's on for real, for real. Like, is he on Raw or SmackDown? Because it seemed to me like it would have been a perfect opportunity to bring Karrion Kross out on Monday Night Raw. Strike while the iron's hot. You know? It would have made sense to me to strike while the iron's hot, to bring him out, on Raw to do something. I had a couple of ideas of things that he could have done, but he could have done something to play off of that promo that he cut that got everybody buzzing, especially some of us hardcore wrestling fans are like, fuck yeah, you're absolutely right. Yes. I don't hate Logan Paul as much as everybody else, but there are a lot of talented people who are overlooked and didn't make WrestleMania, even though that's kind of a stupid thing to complain about. But hey, you want the platform. I think he's only wrestled at WrestleMania once, and that was in a 6-man tag against Lashley and the Street Profits. So it's not like it's the first WrestleMania he's missed, but he's basically saying like they're in his hometown and he didn't get the call. He thought that it would have been right. But you want to go out there and do a 3-minute job for Randy Orton? Because you could have done that, I suppose. But it was great. It was an absolutely great promo. And Karrion Kross, it's a missed opportunity as far as I'm concerned. There's quite a few spots on this show where I could have said, you know what, a guy like Karrion Kross would have fit perfectly right here. In the stable with Paul Heyman, Karrion Kross could be excellent with them. Feuding with Jey Uso could be excellent for Karrion Kross. There's so many different things you could do. And they're saying they're essentially handcuffing him to AJ Styles now. So I guess that's where his feud is. That's fine, but whatever. Jey Uso had the longest celebration, uninterrupted celebration of all time. This was like 30 minutes of yeeting and hugging and Sami Zayn saying he loved him and that he deserves this. All this shit. And I'm not going to go into any detail except this was terrible. It's absolutely terrible. I know that you guys think that, hey, championship celebrations are great, man. It's like, fuck no, this is not great. This was boring. It's fun for the people in the building because they get to yeet in the building. I'm watching it on TV. I want you to do something. I don't want to watch other people have fun for 30 fucking minutes and then there's nothing else happening but you moving your arms up and down. That's stupid. That's dumb. Cut this short. Go to commercial or something. Or hey, how about you have a contender interrupt this thing? Would have been nice if you'd have debuted Rusev right here, or brought Karrion Kross in right here, or somebody. But they decide, no, Sami Zayn and Jimmy Uso. I was like, okay, maybe the build-up, the exclamation point, is going to be that Roman's going to come out and, shake Jay's hand and tell him that he deserved it and all that. It still would have been too long, but that exclamation point of Roman coming out there and being the one who says, this is all you. You deserve this. That would have been nice. And that would have made the segment's length, would have excused it. But Roman was in the building, and they didn't even do that. That took forever. It was boring as shit. Couldn't stand it. What a waste of everybody's time. Next, we had Io Sky versus Stephanie Vaquer. And what was no doubt the biggest mark booking segment that has taken place on this show since John Cena turned heel. This literally was unnecessary. Io Sky comes out, says that Rhea and Bianca tried to forget her, but now no one will. At this point in time, Stephanie Vaquer comes out, says that she wants to show respect to Io. She thinks Io is the best, and she is here to wrestle the best of the best. Io accepted the match and wanted the match right now, so Adam Pearce allows the match to go on. Now, wait a second. Stephanie Vaquer, who is the NXT Women's Champion, is going to wrestle the Women's World Champion in a match with no build-up in the middle of fucking Raw. What are you doing? What are you doing? Now, there's going to be some people out there, hey, Mongo, it was a good match. Why can't you just take the good match? Shut up. This should have been money. They've never wrestled before. They've never done anything before. You could have booked this for a major show and built some anticipation, some promos and things around this. Instead of the first time they have any sort of contact, it is a throwaway segment on Raw that ends in disqualification. That is an absolute waste of what you could have built here. What people don't seem to understand is, one thing that wrestling fans love is that building anticipation. But another thing that they really love is things that have never happened before. Something completely, totally new that has, never occurred. Stephanie Vaquer versus Io Sky had never happened anywhere. And instead of building that up as a match to show people these are two of the best women's wrestlers in the world, they're going to kill it. Pay your money to come and see them. You put this match on in the middle of Raw with no build-up whatsoever. A spontaneous match. And look, it was great. I mean, it was as good as you expected it to be with these two good, talented women. And then Roxanne Perez and Julia crashed the party. They got thrown out, disqualification. Julia attacks Io while Roxanne attacks Stephanie. It makes sense because Roxanne's wrestling Stephanie on NXT tomorrow. I don't know why Julia doesn't like Io. I guess it's a Japanese girl thing. I don't understand it. Rhea Ripley comes out. She's got a black eye. She runs off Roxanne while Julia backs down. She doesn't run. She doesn't flee. But she thought that discretion was the better part of valor. That's the old, Gorilla Monsoon line. And she backed down, which I liked that. And then Rhea Ripley gives the belt to Io Sky, tells her that she's coming for the championship. Now, again, segment-wise, it makes sense. Julia's beefing with Stephanie. She's chasing that belt. Roxanne is also chasing that belt. And obviously Rhea Ripley is chasing Io. But where's Bianca? Bianca was involved with this thing too. She was the rightful number one contender, having won the Elimination Chamber, and kind of got jobbed out at WrestleMania because somebody else was inserted into her match. And now, poof, she's gone. Just up in smoke. Poof, out of here. Julia is now involved with this thing. Look, I love Julia. Julia's great. But why is she here? Unless she's being called up, why is she here? You could have just saved that. And to me, I was like, when I wrote it in my notes, I say, well, they kind of wasted Julia's debut as well. But that's okay, because I don't think she's on the main roster to stay. I don't think Stephanie Vaquer is on the main roster to stay. If Julia is going to stay on the main roster, then yeah, absolutely. Her debut being that she kicked Stephanie Vaquer during an impromptu match is kind of dumb. But we got to see what they're going to do first. Is this going to lead to some kind of tag team match or what? I don't know. It seems to me that they're going full bore with Io Sky as the women's world champion going forward, which begs the question, what are you going to do with Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair? Are we talking about these two maybe being in an off-title feud? Which, you could get away with that with your star power. You could probably get that to work. Now, I'm not against Io Sky wrestling Roxanne Perez or Julia or Stephanie Vaquer. I just want you to put some stank on it. Put some put some sizzle to the steak. Don't just throw things out there and say, well, fuck, I don't know what to do. Just throw it out there. It's like you got all these girls with all this talent. You don't want people going to the bathroom because, you did some dumb shit. And then, Raj Giri, he did something profoundly stupid. He heard some music he didn't want to hear, and he changed the channel and missed Rusev's return. We're going to talk about that in a second. That's the kind of shit that you don't want people to do. You don't want people to get up and walk off. right? You get people to get up, like, yeah, you're punishing the people who don't pay attention to the program. At the same time, though, you're boring folks and they're changing the channel. You're boring people and they're fast forwarding or whatever. Why are you doing that? Why do that? Why put people in that position where they have to sit back because they don't know, oh no, I gotta watch this Nathan Jones segment because I don't know what the hell is gonna happen afterwards. No. People want to be comfortable that I don't need to see this and changing the channel and going away. But I also understand that you want people to watch the show and, you know, you want to clock them for not watching the product. You know, I get that too. But I think a lot of this had to do with the stupid patches they putting on their gear for the action figures, not the action figures, the cards. They're putting patches on cards, you know, for the Topps card or whatever, and they're showing off that all the wrestlers had patches on them that's supposed to be for the Topps card or something like that. And I'm thinking that's why all these people showed up. You know, that's why Julia was there and Stephanie Vaquera was there. Not because they had any storyline reason to be there, but because they want to put debut patches on them for the Topps cards. Again, the company is absolutely soulless. Everything is without merit, and they're not thinking about shit. All right, so let's talk about Rusev's return, because this also comes from a segment that went nowhere. The New Day came out, claimed they're the best tag team of all time. The Alpha Academy claimed that they beat them in 60 seconds last time they fought. So the New Day refused to fight them. Roxanne Perez called them Minutemen. Pat McAfee was singing Missy Elliott, 1 Minute Man, and I wanted to choke him through my TV screen. He's as bad as Mauro Ranallo. Okay? If you thought Mauro Ranallo was bad with the pop culture references and being super annoying, Pat McAfee is the worst. He's fun when he's, you know, involved with the story and he's hyped up, being the hype man for the characters and stuff like that. That's fine. As a commentator, though, I don't know if that's it. Anyway, I don't know if that's the one. Anyway, they get in the ring to have the match, and then all of a sudden, weird music starts to play. It's not Rusev's theme, of course. And Rusev comes out and he beats up Alpha Academy. He puts Otis in the Accolade and destroys Akira Tozawa. And that's it. He came out there, he beat up these two guys and walked out. That was it. That was the debut. That was the re-debut of Rusev in a fucking nothing tag team segment. You had Jey Uso with no opponent and nothing to do. You didn't even have to touch him. All you had to do was be in the same vicinity and people would have been like, ooh, that's interesting. You could have put him somewhere near Paul Heyman. Or at least have Paul Heyman bump into him backstage or something. That would have been more interesting than this. This is completely and totally random. Now, if you want to do random, it should be immediately eye-catching. It should be an inciting incident. If he had his original theme, it would have worked perfectly fine if everybody's in the ring yeeting, especially, and then his theme plays. Or if he just shows up, no music playing at all, and he just stares at Jey Uso, or he just attacks Sami Zayn or something. There's 100 different things you could do. They had him beat up Otis and Akira Tozawa. Bro, get fucked. They say he's got a 2-year contract and Lana's got a Legends contract because she's a legend now. She's a legend, guys. Oh, that Lana, she's a legend. Put some respect on her name because she's a legend. Fuck out of here. Get out of here. Ain't no goddamn legend. It's so frustrating, man. Everybody knew the fucking guy was going to be here tonight. What is your creative vision for him? Nothing. Beat up jabronis. Get out of here. And everybody's like, well, he's not wearing a pink shirt. He doesn't have blonde hair. It's so much better than when he came into AEW. You got to have better expectations than that. You got to have higher expectations than what they did in AEW, which was Shisa. This is supposed to be better. You're re-debuting a guy who is a multiple-time United States champion, a guy who's beaten John Cena. This is a guy you should be pushing to the top. And now he's older. You know more about what he can do because he's shown you in terms of character and having motivation. He's shown you what he can do. Why are you not doing it? He's 1 week away from being benched. I'm telling you, it won't be long because it did the same thing with Andrade. He came into like the Royal Rumble or something like that, and then just started beating up jabronis. He was never positioned as somebody who matters, and then it just went weeks and weeks and weeks of no TV. I can see the same thing with Rusev. Same damn thing. Because you don't have no creative vision for these guys. You knew he was coming for weeks now. Weeks. It's not like he popped up, and you weren't expecting him. You knew he was going to be there for weeks. And guess what? You could have put him out there as a babyface against Gunther. You could have even done that. There's so many other things that you could have done. And they chose, we're going to debut you again in a New Day segment. Nobody cares about New Day. Nobody, New Day is done. They're cooked. Nobody cares about them. And nobody really cares about Alpha Academy. Let's move on because I can rant and rave on that shit forever. Next, Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez win the tag team championships back. What the hell is going on here? The internet is on fire because Becky Lynch came back, took Bayley's spot, won a tag team title, and then lost the belts the next night. And everybody's like, what the hell was the point of the Lyra Valkyria, Becky Lynch winning the tag team titles only to lose them the next night? And then for Becky Lynch to immediately turn on Lyra Valkyria. What was the point of this? This is where, again, building anticipation. Tell the story. Tell the story. The story could be quite obvious. Becky Lynch was enjoying her time off, and then this Lyra Valkyria girl kept calling her and said, I need a partner, please help. Please help. And then Becky leaves her daughter to come help this girl, and then the girl drops the ball and loses the titles. And now that pissed Becky off, and she's like, I took time away from my kid to help you, and you're completely and totally fucking incompetent. Fuck you. Everybody would have understood that, but you got to tell that story. If you'd have told the story that Becky Lynch was coerced or manipulated or whatever, Lyra called her crying on the phone, I need help, please, yada, yada, yada. And then Becky, out of the goodness of her heart, left her daughter unattended, or with a nanny or whatever, we can play that game, and came to help Lyra Valkyria, returned to help Lyra Valkyria, only for Lyra Valkyria to not hold up her end of the bargain. Perfectly fine. But you could have done that at WrestleMania. That's one of those things where if you'd have done it WrestleMania night, instead of them winning the title, that Lyra got pinned, and then Becky could have been like, what the hell? Like, I came back for you. I came back to help you. I should have stayed at home if you were going to lose, and then, decked her in the face or something like that. Like, if you're going to be a loser, I could have stayed at home. You're going to be a bloody loser, or whatever. That would have been much better. But then they won the titles, and then they lose the titles in the first match of the show. Immediately, they lost. It's clear that this thing is going to be about the Women's Intercontinental Championship, and it's going to be about Becky Lynch being frustrated. The problem is Becky's been gone for a really long time. The fans are not going to hate her, for starters. Second, Lyra Valkyria is barely over, in so much as she got a decent reaction at WrestleMania, but people are not emotionally attached to Lyra Valkyria, not for real. So what you're doing is you're trying to force people to care about her. And Becky Lynch likes to be a heel. She likes to try to force the heel thing. And you could tell that when she came back, when she wrestled Bianca Belair, the heel idea is what she was interested in. She doesn't want to be, quote unquote, the man. She can't, I mean, that character has run its course, right? So the big time Bex thing worked for me. I liked it. It eventually got there. It worked. It was kind of rough early, and people were against it early, but over time, she got the thing to working. And by the time she was wrestling Liv Morgan and Bianca Belair at WrestleMania stuff, she was in her groove as a heel. I'm thinking it's going to be the same thing here again, where it's going to take some time to reinvent who Becky Lynch is for this run. And this run is going to be specifically about fighting her protege, Lyra Valkyria, who, again, she has been doing a lot with. And this has been a ship she's going to end up driving for the most part, because she's got a lot of leverage in terms of whether she's going to stick around or leave. And the company's going to want her there, but she can't be in the championship picture. She can't be in the world title picture. I mean, that's just, eventually they're going to get around to Io Sky versus Becky Lynch. But like right now, her wrestling for the women's Intercontinental belt is fine too, because it's a belt that didn't exist the last time she was there. So the title switch, I didn't understand it. I didn't understand the reasoning behind it. And I don't see why they won them. You could have turned Becky Lynch at WrestleMania and had her beat up Lyra Valkyria. Now, the problem I had with Lyra Valkyria here is that when she got jumped by Becky, she was emoting. She was trying to be dramatic, like holding her neck because she had just taken the Oblivion. And she's curled up as Becky is beating on her. But then Becky is walking away and Lyra doesn't get up. She's still looking at Becky all distressed. And Becky just casually walks back over and just starts beating her up again. And I'm like, what? You got to have some fight, Lyra. You gotta fight back. Like, it's one thing if you get knocked unconscious, okay. But if you can sit up and you can look up at her and you can use both hands, fight back. Or sell in another way where you're beat up and dead. Then people understand why you're not fighting back. But if you're sitting down and looking at her, then you can fight back. And then people are not going to have sympathy for you. And that's what happened here. Because Becky Lynch turned around and came back twice. And Lyra never got up, but she never stayed down either. She was like in that weird position of being half up, half down. She was still completely coherent and was in shock, quote unquote. No, not good enough. And then she starts taking manhandle slams. She took 2 of them. The crowd chanted one more time, so she took a 3rd one. And I was just like, my God, they're kicking Lyra in the dick right here, boy. They beating her ass. They beating her all in her ass. And she deserves it. She looked like a goof. After the match, she looked completely stupid. Somebody needs to tell the girl, in any situation, you got to protect your character. When you're out there, yes, these horsewomen especially, they are vicious. They will bowl over you if you let them. Becky Lynch is no different. She's no different than Charlotte. That's why they don't get along. No different than Becky. Bayley is the only one who might let you get away with it, because she's very nice. She's Auntie Pam. But Becky Lynch, no. She will absolutely embarrass you. Okay? So, you got to protect yourself. If you let Becky Lynch hit you, and you sell like death. Therefore, when she's moving you around, she's moving around essentially a dead body, or an unconscious body, or a well-thumped person. You're going to miss out on your opportunity to do your Meryl Streep impression, but at least you're protected. Because if you're coherent and you can move your arms and legs and hands and you're not fighting, then the people are not going to believe in you that you're a fighter. And then, okay, maybe you get away with it once, But then she came back 2 or 3 times. And then she pulled her to her feet to do the manhandle slams, and she still didn't fight her off. What are you doing? Enough. People, that's drama, anticipation, struggle. These are core elements of pro wrestling. Pro wrestling almost always sucks when those things are missing. When there's no anticipation, when there's no drama, no theater, and then when there is no struggle. No struggle is when I say things look like fight scenes in movies. You know, everything just happens to go your way. It's very much like a Jackie Chan scene. Like, I don't want any trouble, and he hits you in the face with the refrigerator door or something like that. He started beating you up with the cabinets. It's like, wow, just how these things just happen to occur with no resistance from the opponent. You know, he just walks right into it. Oh, I don't want any trouble. Boom. You know, the plunger is, stuck to your forehead or some shit. It's very cartoonish and weird. And that's how a lot of these wrestling matches are on the indies and shit. There's not enough struggle. These guys, and I think part of it is they have been beat up, not physically beat up, but like verbally by older guys who say, let me do it. Let me do my shit. Let me get my shit in, sell. And when they do that and you stop struggling, you look weak. You look bad because you're not trying to fight free of this submission hold that they're putting you in. You're not trying to fight free of, having your head banged against something. I get it. In wrestling, sometimes the veterans want you to just go with the flow. But you got to think twice that sometimes some things are about you, right? Now, the beatings, take that. The manhandle slams, unless you're going to be, again, beat flat, which you can do. You ain't full control of that by just staying down and laying down flat. If you are going to be in any way coherent enough to be shocked or surprised, then people are going to expect you to fight back. And I didn't see that. That's a big problem that wrestling has these days. And even at the top level, so many main event wrestlers will just let guys do shit to them. And let the guy take forever to do it too. No firing up at all. Just let the guy take forever to do it. I think it was kind of like the Roman Reigns. He's really good at that stuff. Like when Bron Breakker tried to spear him in the final segment, Bron Breakker walked up to him. Roman punched him, uppercut, right? And that was resistance. He banged. So, Bron Breakker was like, oh shit. He still got some bite to him. So then he ran around the ring and speared him through the barricade. Like, okay, I'm not going to be able to just walk up on him, but maybe I can come from the side and I get him. And that's what happened. Just a little bit of resistance. Now, Roman's got some clout. He can do that. But most people should need to get that sort of clout in. Get something in there for yourself. She's making a mistake. I don't know if anybody's ever going to care about this girl, man. But Becky Lynch is about to break her back trying, no doubt. Now, they say that Bayley is out with various injuries. All of them are kayfabe, apparently. And everybody's out here emoting and whining about Bayley. Oh, Bayley got bent. She got pulled from WrestleMania. And Sasha Banks trying to get her to come over to AEW. I'm like, man, y'all just love to watch people stir the pot. Bayley was in a spot she didn't deserve anyway. She, simply put, is less over now than she's ever been before. She needs to reinvent herself. And she needs to take this time to come up with something different. Come up with something new. And hopefully she comes back with a new attitude and a new look. And she can do something different than what she was doing before. Because and I'm pretty sure this is going to be the case, I'm pretty sure we're about to see a different version of Becky Lynch. And again, Becky Lynch will reinvent herself, no problem. The other horsewomen, they've been struggling with that. Bayley's biggest success is when she, reinvented herself. And she can do it. Sasha Banks really couldn't. She still can't. She's still basically playing Sasha Banks in a different skin right now. Charlotte's been the same since NXT. She's encased in amber. She's like a wax statue at this point. She's never going to change, ever. And she really shouldn't, if we're being honest. But Bayley and Becky are the two that can adapt. And Becky has shown the most ability to adapt. While Bayley is stale as hell right now, and she needs something else. She hasn't reached Natalya levels where she's useless. But we all like to see Bayley do something just a little bit different. So hopefully they do something with this injury angle and have a big plan for her to come back. But all this talk about Bayley being done wrong, I don't know, man. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that most anything, people thought that Liv Morgan was being done wrong. Oh, Becky Lynch just jumped off her couch and beat Liv Morgan. Oh my God, that's so unfair. It's like she's a cowardly heel. She's tiny. And she didn't know who her opponent was going to be. So psychologically, it kind of makes sense. She wasn't expecting to fight Becky Lynch. And then when she did, she was overwhelmed. Because Becky Lynch has been resting. And she's been resting for a year. And then she, it makes sense. But now, they got to do something different. But it was kind of weird that they would lose the titles and then win them right back. All right, so now we got to talk about your boy JC, John Cena. John Cena, he made the ring announcer change his announcement, said that his announcement was disrespectful. The appropriate response is that he's the greatest of all time, the never seen number 17, the glass real world champion, and that's how he chooses to be addressed. John Cena says that the winners write history, and he is not forgiving the fans because that's not how relationships work. And that the crowd owes him an apology. And the crowd starts to chant, "We are sorry," or "We aren't sorry." I heard "are" and "aren't." I don't know if that's just my ears, if what you guys, I heard "are," "we are sorry," and I heard "we aren't sorry." I heard both. He says that the Raw after WrestleMania is when the crowd takes control, but they've gone soft. And then he says that as they were chanting, he says that yes, you are the sorriest sack of lowlives I've ever seen. Then he had a countdown on the screen, 36 dates. He says 36 dates, and he's gone. Not 36 matches, 36 appearances. And then they booed because they was like, oh shit, he's already used a bunch of appearances already. And then he starts counting down the appearances down from 36 to 27. 27 appearances left. And then after that, the championship will be gone. He said, oh yeah, you guys are going to have a new champion. You're going to have a tournament for a new belt or whatever. But the title from Bruno Sammartino to Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold Steve Austin, and that championship leaves with me. I love this. This is a lot different than what I expected. He literally put a doom clock on these people. This is what I meant before when I talked about anticipation. This is the ultimate in anticipation. He put literally a clock on you by saying, this is how much time you have left. Every time I show up, that number is going to go down. Every time that number goes down and I still got the belt, the lineage is still intact. But soon as I retire with the title, the lineage is broken and it's gone forever. You can't put it back together because he's never coming back. And he said that in an interview that no amount of money can bring him back. Even more so, he has a heel incentive to never come back. Because if he can break the lineage of the title, then why would he come back to give you an opportunity to reestablish the lineage? Now, in order to fully explain this, there is a concept in boxing and MMA called the lineal heavyweight champion. That is the man who beat the man. Now, in pro wrestling, these things happen in willy-nilly because there's guys who lost matches in Japan, and there's guys who, that they're unrecognized titles. There's, guys who lost belts in like Puerto Rico or whatever, and these are unrecognized titles. Famously, Antonio Inoki won the WWF Championship unrecognized. Famously, Ted DiBiase was technically the WWF champion unrecognized because he bought the championship from Andre the Giant, even though I never saw anywhere that you can't buy that. But the most famous two breaking of lineages is when Ric Flair jumped from the WWF to WCW. From other way around, from WCW to WWF, he was still technically the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Technically. When Alundra Blaze left the WWF to go to WCW, she was still technically the WWF Women's Champion. So she was the girl who beat the girl. When she went over there, they started a new lineage when they restarted the championship, and that is the women's title that is being worn today because the lineage has not been broken since then. Now, they've done weird stuff with the lineage, like the Divas title, but the Divas title is kind of tied into what they call the Raw Women's title, which I think ended up becoming the Women's World Championship. It's the same fucking belt, just different name. It's weird anyway because Alundra Blaze technically started a new lineage because the title was deactivated before she'd won it. So technically, the WWF Women's Championship begins with the Fabulous Moolah, and it goes to Wendy Richter, and then blah, 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 then Rockin' Robin in like 1990. And then Rockin' Robin, they didn't have any champion, they didn't have any more title matches because I think she left the company, or they deactivated the title because there wasn't enough women. And then they restarted the division for Alundra Blaze in like 93. So there was like a 2 or 3 year stretch where the belt didn't exist. And they had to establish a new championship. Now, technically, the WWF women's title is still the same belt that Moolah had, technically. And it starts with Moolah's lineage, not with Mildred Burke's lineage. Long story, okay? Long story. It starts with Moolah with the WWF, okay? So, Moolah's title is the same belt that exists today, even though the lineage has been broken 1,000 times. So that's what they're trying to do here, is they're trying to tell the story that John Cena is going to intentionally break the lineage by forcing himself to be the last real world champion. Now, to put it in a visual mode for people, there's the movie Moana, which I actually did see. Now, at the end of the movie, spoilers, Moana stacks a shell on top of these stones. Like at the end of the movie, she tells you all about these stones where all of the members of her family who complete this task, they all put a stone there and it's supposed to build up. She puts a seashell on top of the stones. And so instead of following tradition, she essentially breaks the lineage by putting a shell up there. And most people who have, analyzed this movie looked at it and said, man, how selfish is that? Where she's purposefully trying to prevent other people from surpassing what she did, and now John Cena's doing the same thing, by purposefully saying that nobody can surpass me, but if I break the lineage, nobody can surpass me. I'm the last real world champion. That's a pretty goddamn good villain angle. It's almost Bond-like. It's very cerebral in a sense. Now, I'm actually okay with John Cena as a heel now. The performances is, I actually agree with Ariel Helwani when he says that John Cena feels like he's acting. It feels like he's in character. It doesn't feel natural to him. I said that weeks ago, though. I agree with that. But in terms of villain motivation, I like this. He wants to force this next generation to take the title from him. Like everybody's saying, hey, we need to move on. We need to move on. Okay, I'll give you the opportunity to move on if you can take this belt from me in the next 36 dates or 27 dates or whatever. I got the belt now. I had to burn a couple of dates to get it, but now I got it. Now I get to play keep away. And now, the various guys on the roster is going to try to be the guy that takes the belt and keeps the lineage going. So essentially, the guys now are fighting for tradition, right? Now, we can have this argument, this conversation about whether this matters or not. And some people can say, look, this is stupid. It's pro wrestling. Tons of guys go out and lose matches and lose championships. And it's not going to really break the lineage or end anything. Cena even knows that they're going to just name a new champion as soon as he leaves. And that championship will eventually just tie into the lineage of John Cena. Just like all the other championships have. Guys have retired with belts before, and the belts are just picked up by other people. But those are technically paper champions. In boxing, you can win a title, because the other guy didn't make weight. Like that kind of weird shit happens. And those guys aren't really respected as world champions. And that's generally what the feeling that they're going for here is, that you won't really be respected as the world champion because you didn't beat the world champion. And this is one of the things that to go back to the women's title, because it's the best example, where Alundra Blaze, Medusa, where she said that she wanted to lose the belt in the ring, and that she actually pitched the idea of wrestling one more match so that she could lose her belt in the ring. Rock and Robin has said no such thing, but Medusa, for her, is very important. I haven't heard Rock and Robin say she wanted to lose the belt in the ring either, so I don't know. But Medusa has pitched that idea, and so far nobody has bit on it. I guess because they figure it doesn't matter when it comes to the women, but they're doing it with the guys now. Similarly, this is also, again, the same story with Punk in the summer of 2011 when he returned and he had the real world title, while John Cena had this facsimile of the world title that he won from Rey Mysterio, who won the title in a tournament. He never beat CM Punk. And then John Cena never beat CM Punk. The person who beat CM Punk was Alberto Del Rio. So he was technically the real world champion when he won the belt. So there's a lot of fun stuff that they can do here with, playing with the lineage and tradition and what it means to be a champion in pro wrestling, and respect, and building some anticipation. So yes, I do like this storyline. I love it. I think it's really good. And when he says that he's going to ruin pro wrestling, this is what he means. He means he's going to break the lineage, force you to create a facsimile title with a paper champion who had never beaten him, and he gets to gloat that he is the last champion and was the guy nobody ever beat. Kind of like Rocky Marciano, because he was never beaten, or Floyd Mayweather, who also never lost. So anybody who's carrying belts that Floyd Mayweather owned at one point and never beat him, they're technically paper champions. No matter how good they are, they never beat the guy who was the champion. But then again, it's boxing, so there's no telling whether the titles were even legitimate when Floyd won them. As you can see, there is a certain level of interest in this sort of subject, and it's because I fell into a rabbit hole a couple of weeks ago in trying to follow the lineage of the heavyweight championship in boxing and in mixed martial arts. Again, Napoleon Bonaparte, who is one of my favorite YouTubers, he's been doing the lineal championship of mixed martial arts for the heavyweight title, rather. And he's been following like the guy who beat the guy across all these different promotions and such, right? And it's a very fun watch, and I suggest everybody do it. If you know about the movie Queen of the Ring, then you know about Mildred Burke and her championship and all that kind of stuff, which I was going to go into when I eventually see that movie, which I'll watch it eventually, but I haven't seen it yet. But for the record, for those of you who know a little bit about wrestling history, Mildred Burke never lost her belt. So technically, she retired with a championship. And June Byers was technically the NWA Women's Champion. That's a different lineage. But Moolah was the champion on the East Coast. So when they opened up New York in the 70s, Moolah was the champion, the women's wrestling champion in the Northeast. That's how she ended up being the first women's champion in the WWF. It's a long story, all right? Which, if eventually when I see that movie, I will go a little bit more into it, because I've read the books on Joan Byers and Mildred Burke already. So eventually we'll get to it. But for right now, all you need to know is John Cena is trying to create some kind of scenario which won't matter in 15 years because nobody's going to give a fuck. I mean, just like, nobody cares that Ric Flair walked out on WCW, but it does matter because if you go back and watch WCW, there's that clusterfuck time when they have 2 world titles. There's the NWA champion and the WCW champion, and you're not sure who the top dog is in that race because Ric Flair broke the lineage of the belts or whatever. So it couldn't be fun. And they're building it on a high level, and they're doing it on purpose. Usually when the lineages get broken, it's not on purpose. It's somebody got retired, somebody got hurt, or somebody left the territory, or whatever the case may be. But now they're doing it on purpose. And they're obviously going to have John Cena lose his bout back to Cody. It's inevitable. But it's just a fun thing to do. At the end of his segment, John Cena takes an RKO. Of course, setting up Cena, Orton at Backlash. I like it. It was inevitable that they were going to do the Orton match one more time. Yes, there's some people who have a good point when they say this is John Cena's last run. Let's get some fresh opponents in there. I agree with you, and I think there will be some fresh opponents. But he's also going to play the hits. He's got to do Punk. He's got to do Orton. He's got to do at least those 2. Right? He can go in there with other people. Drew McIntyre, Damian Priest. Hopefully not Damian Priest, but like Drew McIntyre. Maybe other guys I can't think of right now. A Sami Zayn or, something like that too. But ultimately, it's his farewell tour. One final match with Orton. One final match with Punk, who are his chief rivals that still remain in WWE. Those are givens. You got to do those. At least those 2 you absolutely have to do. I'm very interested in what the quality of that match will be. Now, in closing, I want to talk about this. A lot of people criticized John Cena for his work, the way he wrestled at WrestleMania. And the match was not great. It wasn't great. I think, and people were saying like he was doing that because physically he's washed. He can't do that anymore. And I was thinking to myself, like, I think that working that 1997 Kevin Nash style, it was a choice. And what I mean by that is, he didn't work that way at Elimination Chamber, which was only like a month or 2 before WrestleMania, right? Do you think he aged that much in that short amount of time? Or was he wrestling in a way to prove to people or to show to people that he can't wrestle and that he won't have to, that he's going to cut corners and that he's going to, do all these other things that's going to make winning easier? Rather than busting his ass, taking 100 bumps, he's going to go out there and work a very lackadaisical style. And if he did that on purpose and changing his style on purpose, then that's just a change in approach. But everybody is used to John Cena going out there and giving 110% effort, even if he's not great at what he's doing. Seeing him not really give a shit and basically sleepwalk through the match is kind of offensive to the fan because they're like, oh, he's not trying. At the same time, though, this is kind of what his character is now. His character is kind of like he doesn't give a fuck. He's grumpy. He's tired. He's not going to do too much. Like he's not going to give you a great match. And he doesn't want to. He's denying you what you want. At the same time, though, people are paying money, expensive money, so much money for these tickets and merchandise. So you could do better. But It's an interesting thing. I don't remember him working the way that he worked at WrestleMania at Elimination Chamber. So I don't think he just got old overnight. I just don't believe that. So I think it was a stylistic choice that he decided to work like Kevin Nash and take as few bumps as possible, because he's going to be working more matches now than ever before, and he doesn't want to get hurt. So it seems sensible to me, even though it's probably not aesthetically pleasing. I think people might get used to it, and he might actually start doing a little bit more as he goes on. All right, so that's Monday Night Raw. The Cena stuff was solid. It's an okay promo. I love the clock. I love Bron Breakker with Seth Rollins. I'm glad Rusev is back. I just don't like what they're doing with them. Really feel bad that Karrion Kross didn't get to follow up on the promo that he did by actually standing in the ring and challenging somebody to, moving his career forward. The excessive amount of yeeting. I'm so sick of the yeets. I don't know what to do. I'm sick of yeeting. I'm so sick of seeing all the yeets. This shit's getting on my nerves. But everything else was mostly flat to okay. The heel turn for Becky Lynch was solid. They're trying to turn everybody heel now, but it just makes people more popular. So it kind of blows up in people's face all the time. But I'm interested in seeing where that goes too. But let me know what you guys think. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. If you are so inclined, please give money to MagMongoSlade on Cash App. I appreciate that if you do, and I'll talk to you guys later.